All right. Well, thank you, everyone. I know it's a little bit before start time, but we have a special presentation we would like to do here tonight for our Global Citizen Global Leadership Award to two very special people. I'll get to that in a moment, but you guys get the preview of my speech for the start of the event in about half an hour. My name is Tim Horgan. I'm the Executive Director of the World Affairs Council of New Hampshire, a nonpartisan nonprofit organization that is dedicated to helping people better understand the world. We do that through a number of programs, speakers events like this here tonight, podcasts, Global in the Granite State, check it out, I love it. We do international visitor exchanges, we do high school diplomacy simulations, and I'm really proud to announce that this year already we've worked with over 600 New Hampshire students on engaging in this experiential learning opportunity. I want to thank our sponsors who helped make this event possible. You'll see them scrolling through on our slideshow, but a particular thank you to X Corp for their generous donation to really help us out with this event here tonight. Also, a thank you to our wonderful sponsors of McLean Middleton, of CCA Global Partners, and of Mercury SGS. We're really thankful for their support. Now, to present the award, I'm going to turn it over to Karen and Steve Barndollar, who nominated our awardees here tonight, to say a few words before we give out the big award. So please help me in joining and welcoming Karen and Steve.
Good evening. I'm Steve Barndollar, and this is my wife, Karen Barndollar. We live in Portsmouth, and I've been associated with the World Affairs for probably 15 or 20 years off and on, but been on the board for the last 4 years. My wife equally has been on the board of EFAC, Education for All Children in Portsmouth. That is, you'll hear from the founders. So I'm happy to and honored to be presenting the award this evening, the 2025 Global Citizen of the Year, to Rod Nancy Van Sciver, who are neighbors of ours in Portsmouth and Rye. I should probably put on my hat, wouldn't it? It's a black hat and not a red one, but it looks like so. And they're standing over here. But my wife will say a few words because she's been on the board since the started 18 years ago. But as a global organization, New Hampshire-based, they've gone from a first-class student body in Kenya, which we went out and then went on a safari and met the kids, to about 1,000 students now. It started out with 24 students, so an amazing growth of educational, both undergrad, high school and university education, building up to 1,900 students. So globally, it means our motto in World Affairs is you're bringing New Hampshire to the world and the world to New Hampshire, and certainly they amplify that by the educational mission and the vision they have for the students. So I won't be long-winded, but if you have a chance to talk to them after they tell you about their organization, and it's wonderful from a mentoring standpoint. We went out, met a couple of the young girls who were sponsoring secondary students, and did not meet their families, but I had a chance to meet them, and that organization is incredibly meaningful to 70% of the students are women, young women, so that's obviously from a lot of them from very impoverished backgrounds. My wife, Karen, is more knowledgeable of the organization. And
he just said everything I was going to say, so I really don't have anything else to say. I am a founding board member of Education for All Children. I've been with the organization since the beginning. And during my tenure, which is about to come to an end, I have watched this small, humble nonprofit grow from an initial class of 42 students to a thriving, highly respected organization that educates hundreds of students in a number of boarding schools all over Kenya and also Kenyan universities. We also have approximately 250 students who have finished our 8-year program and are now out in the world making a difference, doing all kinds of different things. They are entrepreneurs, they work for nonprofits, they are equipped to really thrive and change their lives, and more importantly, also help change the lives of their siblings, because in a country like Kenya, it does take a village, and the village expects these kids to give back for what they were given. So it is my great pleasure to introduce Nancy and Rod, our fabulous founders, and it is due to their daring vision and commitment, and supported by a very dedicated board and staff, that Education for All Children, EFAC, has achieved what it has over the last 18 years. Are you giving it? Or is
No, you're on. You can.
With the backdrop here.
Okay.
So if you want to just scooch that way, we can grab a picture. Sure. So thank you to Rod and Nancy. If you want to come up and say a few words, and I hope you enjoy your award. Please.
You want to go first?
Well, Karen and Steve said most of what I was going to tell you, so that's good. But I do want to thank Steve and Karen for nominating us for this award, and I thank the World Affairs Council. Great organization. We're proud to be a part of it, and we're really honored to be recognized in this way. Let me just very quickly tell you a little bit about what we do and why we do it. As Steve and Karen mentioned, we're an education to employment program for Kenya kids. And the problem in Kenya, the government funds primary school, but they don't fund high school. And what are you going to do with an 8th grade education? So every year, 1 million kids graduate from 8th grade. 60% of them drop out because their parents don't have the funds to send them to school. And we said, what a total waste. I mean, you've put these kids through 8 years of school, you know who the smart ones are, and then you throw 60% of them away. So what we do with our program, very simply, no bricks and mortar, we just fund scholarships for high school and for university. So our assumption was, since only 5% of Kenyans get a college degree, they would get snapped up immediately. Not so. Actually, Kenya seems to generate more graduates than they do job opportunities. So a big part of the work and what we've evolved into is helping these kids get job ready, helping them get the few jobs that are available. Probably only half of what we spend is on tuition. The rest is on programs. We hold workshops, teach these kids how to network, get them on LinkedIn, show them how to build a resume, just all the soft skills that you don't learn in college, but you need to be successful in life. Because our goal is a career, a meaningful career. And education's important, but you gotta be making an income. You can't buy a house, you can't send your kids to school unless you're making an income. I have a hearing aid. Every time my phone rings, it cuts me off from the world, excuse me. So right now, so that's what we do. We run these workshops and we get these kids ready to go out into the real world. Right now, as Karen mentioned, we started in 2008 with 42 students. Right now we have 1,000 kids in high school and university, but more excitingly, we have 250 who are actually out in the real world, making a living, finding their way. We're very proud of the fact that 70% of them are working within 2 years of getting out of school. That doesn't sound like much here in the US, but believe me, it's a big deal in Kenya. These jobs are very scarce and hard to find. So I guess the other question is why? I mean, certainly education is important, but what's important about educating in Africa? Well, as we've seen in statistics, in another 30 years, almost half of the young people in the world under the age of 30 will live in Africa because the Asian, the US, the European populations are stagnant and Africa is still growing. So what's the result of that? If these kids are well educated, if they're productive, if they're creating businesses, they're creating new technologies, the world is just going to keep getting to be a better place. On the other hand, if they're uneducated, we all see the impact of immigration. You know, it's the rich West just trying to keep people from coming in, but people who are uneducated and starving are going to get in somehow. So we have a choice to make, and we figure that that's a very important thing, and it's not something we can address in 20 or 30 years, something we need to address right now. So that's why we're doing what we're doing. So let me turn it over to Nancy, tell you a little bit about how this all came about, and a little bit what some of our kids look like, or at least one.
Okay. Hi, thank you for having us, and we're really honored, and thank you, Steve and Karen, for submitting us. So I think I'll start out with a story about one of our students so that you can see where they came from. We have a young boy, his name is Sam Amoy, who is in our second class of students. And he was on the street begging. His stepfather was abusing him terribly, so he ended up on the streets at 4 years old. And then, as he said, some well-wisher took me into an orphanage. And that orphanage was pretty rough, but the person running it was pretty fabulous. So we went to that orphanage to meet some of the students, the children there, and Sam was one of them. So he became an EFAC student. And he went through the high school. When he got to university, after 1 year, he was the top IT student in the school. And we didn't have to pay for the next 3 years of his university because he had gotten a scholarship. Today, he is a Salesforce administrator, making a great living. He has found his siblings from that original family that he hadn't seen, and he's supporting them and their children now. So it's a really good example of why we do what we do. And it, you know, brings tears to my eyes. So how we got started, we were thinking, we were both working in business and decided that, you know, we needed to give back. We had been so fortunate. And we were doing some things. I used to be a CASA worker, but the more that we looked into it, we realized that internationally, not enough was happening for these kids, as Karen and Steve explained, that, you know, they had no future. 11% of youth graduate from high school. And what are you going to do? You're going to end up back with your parents, taking care of the family, subsistence living, hawking vegetables on the side of the street. So that was what we discovered when we made our first trip to Kenya. And on the day before we were leaving, we were meeting, somebody had hooked us up with this guy to meet, and he brought another man and his mother, Professor Leah Marango, the first female vice chancellor in all of East Africa. Just an amazing woman. She is my mentor.
And so after, we talked about what we had seen and what we wanted to do, and she said, I want to help with this. So she had us come to the university. Their head of education worked with EFAC. She worked with EFAC. We had a space to work out of. So the first year, we raised enough money to do 42 students. And that grew, and I think, as Karen said, it grew. We now have either in school or working 1,200 students. So it's been quite a journey. And Professor Marengo was an amazing woman, the first female vice chancellor in all of East Africa. So I think just to end, I'd like to tell you another story about one of our students, because these really illuminate what we do. We have had a young girl the very first year in those 42 students, Charity Samel. And at the bottom of her application, her teacher had written, "Charity has a baby." She was 14. And she was Maasai, so, she was married off early and had a baby. But she wanted an education. And so, to me, I was like, she's in. So she came to our program. Today, she has 2 children, and she is an attorney advocating for women's rights. So, it's that kind of talent that you lose if you don't give them an education. So that's what we do. We have a table at the back with all our information on it, so please take anything that you're interested in. We appreciate your attention, and if there are any questions, we'd be happy to answer.
Can I just say one more thing about that 42 students? So Nancy and Leah hit it off. The chemistry's great. They agree. Actually, you agreed on 20 students, which then became 40. And I said, we just got 2 kids through high school and college. We're ready to retire, and you're committing to put 20 kids through high school and college. So my first inclination is to say, no way. But when I was about to marry Nancy, her father took me aside and he said, you're going to have a great life with Nancy as long as you never say no. And it was probably the best piece of advice I ever got. So when she said 20 students, I said, that's great, honey, let's do that. Thank you so much.